Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Status Flex. Status Flex is a 45-minute sequence of yoga postures or other moves just designed to increase your flexibility. I appreciate your showing up. I started this program because I was needing to force myself to practice flexibility on a regular basis. So this keeps me accountable. I hope that's helpful for you too. We'll start with the legs gently crossed, and I'm going to bring my right leg to the outside. So cross the legs. I'm sorry. So bringing my right leg to the outside. Legs are crossed gently. You can sit back if this, as a matter of fact, if you have never done this before, I would encourage you to try just sitting back, gently cross the legs and just sit back and feel how that helps you open your hips. And for that matter, let's go ahead and just come down onto the back all together and start with some mindful breathing. As you inhale, you'll fill the belly. As you exhale, pull the navel toward the spine. Press the sides of the hips down toward the knees. So inhale, fill the belly. Exhale. Inhale, fill the belly, and exhale. When the knees are crossed, it's kind of hard to press the lower back down to the floor. So do just one more repetition of this. Inhale, relax. Exhale, pull the navel to the spine. Now, keep the back pressed to the floor. Press the backs of your shoulders to the floor. Shrug your shoulder blades down your back. We're going to stay like this. We're going to continue to breathe. And as you exhale, just feeling yourself pressing firmly the head, the back of the neck, the shoulders, chest, belly, exhaling all the way down to the pelvic floor. Engage the pelvic floor and then fill. Now, try not to relax too much as you fill, but if this gets difficult to hold, feel free to let go for a moment. Exhale again, really anchor the entire back to the floor. The back of the head, tuck your chin, maybe the back of the neck, backs of the shoulders. Shoulder blades, ribs, stomach, pelvic floor. One more time, inhale, exhale. The whole front of the body drops toward the back. And on your next inhalation, we'll gently relax. Come up onto the elbows and just come into this cross-leg position. Easy pose or Sukhasana. Now, as I'm going to sit in these postures a little bit longer today. There is a practice called Yin Yoga, and that in that practice, we typically hold postures for 3 to 5 minutes. Now, probably not going to hold for 5 minutes, but we'll probably hold for closer to 3. I encourage you to try to be patient and see if you can just start to relax. If this is a difficult posture for you, you can always back out of it. You can lean back, you can open up your legs. But Yin Yoga is so fascinating because as you sit in a posture, you find yourself becoming more flexible right there, right in front of your face. So inhaling and exhaling, you might be thinking, well, what am I supposed to think about for the next 2 minutes? Well, you can think about your breath. Think about that diaphragmatic breathing. You can think about your shoulders. Are you feeling your shoulders kind of hunched up around your back? As you exhale, slide your shoulder blades down your back. You can do something that I call running circles. There are lines of energy running through your body. And there is a superficial line of energy that runs up the right side of your spine, up the left side of your spine. So it runs from your tailbone up the back on either side of the spine, all the way up to the crown of the head. And then it begins running down, and it crosses the eyebrows, to the chin bones, to the collarbones, down to the belly, all the way down to the pubic bones in front. It crosses the pelvic floor and comes back up the sits bones in the back. So that's something else that you can think about for a little while as we hold these yin postures. So you can breathe, you can run circles down the front, up the back. You can try leaning forward. When you lean forward, you're probably going to find your hips wanting to lift away from the floor. Keep pulling the navel back to keep the hips anchored onto the floor. We're getting up to the end of our 3 minutes here. And we're going to just come back to an upright position. Change the cross of the leg. So now the left leg is on the outside. Let's go back down to the floor for a little bit of diaphragmatic breathing. And here I'm going to encourage you, rather than thinking about your stomach as much, I'll still remind you of that. Think about widening your collarbones and flattening your shoulder blades and the backs of your upper arms. So I'm going to put my hands kind of on my hips like this. As I exhale, I'm flattening the backs of my upper arms and my shoulder blades, maybe feeling myself pull the navel and push the lower back to the floor as well. So keep holding that pressure against the floor. Keep breathing. My hips are getting tired, so I'm kind of pushing my feet away from my body so I can hold this stable for a little while longer. On your next inhalation, we'll come back to an upright position. Sitting up nice and tall. Or lean back. Maybe on this side, again, you want to focus on the shoulders like we were focusing when we were on the back. Exhaling, pulling the sternum, the breastbone, down toward the floor. Inhaling, lengthening from the sits bones all the way up through the crown of the head. And then coming back down, pressing the sternum and the pubic bones down to the floor. And just relax. And if you can't relax sitting up, lean back and relax sitting back. You'll feel those hips opening as you sit. Coming to the end of our 3 minutes again, we'll extend the right leg and bend the left knee. Rotate your body so that you're facing the extended leg. Again, I recommend that you start by leaning back. As you inhale, lengthen up the back of your spine. As you exhale, remember you're pressing the breastbone straight down to the floor. We're also going to press the back of the thigh against the floor and the back of the left outer thigh against the floor. So inhale, lengthen, relax the legs. Exhale, engage the front energy line and the backs of both legs. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, ground down with the front of the body and the backs of the legs. And if this feels pretty good for you and you want to start moving forward, go ahead and do that. Now we're going to talk about antagonistic muscles. Antagonistic muscles in the body are sets of muscles that oppose each other. Hamstrings and quadriceps are antagonistic muscles. When the quadricep contracts, harden your quadricep, it causes the hamstring to relax. So if I contract through the top of my thigh, I can sink into my posture a little bit further. Inhale, exhale. So as I inhale, I can lengthen through my spine. I can also contract through my quadricep. Exhale, relax through my hamstring and ground down with the front midline of my body. There's all kinds of things that you can turn your attention to here. Another option, as you inhale, send your right butt cheek behind you. As you exhale, push out through the sole of your right foot. Inhale, lengthen your leg backward. Exhale, lengthen your leg forward. Inhale and exhale. And on your next inhalation, we'll come back to center. We'll switch sides here. Starting again by squaring myself off over that extended leg. I can lean back if I want, or I can start sitting up, whatever works for you. We do want to be able to relax in the posture so that we're not gritting our teeth toward the end of the time. So whatever you need to do, just sitting in the posture and leaning back on your hands is valid. You can, again, inhale. Think about lengthening through the spine. Exhale. Draw that line of energy down the front of the body, chin, collarbones, either side of the breastbone, pubic bone, all the way down into the floor, and then circle back up the back. You can also turn your attention to those antagonistic sets of muscles. If you contract through the left quadricep, you will force your left hamstring to relax. So as I inhale, I can contract my left quadricep. As I exhale, I'm relaxing through the back of my left thigh. Inhale, contract through the front of my left thigh. Exhale, relax through the back of my left thigh. You could also turn your attention to the back, your left butt cheek. Extend the butt cheek backward.
as you, on your inhalation. On your exhalation, push out through the sole of the foot. Inhale, extend the butt cheek backward. Exhale, push forward through the sole of the foot. You may want to check in with your shoulder blades again. Do you feel your shoulder blades pulling up around your ears? If so, slide the shoulders away from the ears. On your next inhalation, we'll gently release and come out of that posture. Coming into our next posture here, and we're holding these postures for about 3 minutes, a little bit longer than we might otherwise. And that is, again, the nature of this Dean practice. It's just sitting in these postures a little bit longer. And you can sit perfectly silent. I do find that when people are sitting perfectly silent, they tend to get a little antsy. So if I'm talking too much, turn the volume off. No problem at all. Inhaling, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, ground down to the midline of the front of the body. And if it's appropriate and you want to sit up nice and tall, inhale, lengthen through the spine. If you anchor yourself by holding on to the ends of your toes and then inhale, relax your shoulders. You can get it almost feels like you're pulling the arms out of the socket. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, ground down through the pubic bones. Maybe open the knees. Another way to approach this, what happens when you inhale and pull your knees apart? Pull your knees to either wall, away from each other. Exhale and push the soles of your feet together. Inhale, pull your knees apart. Exhale, push the soles of your feet together. Now, if you're feeling that in your lower back, you may have forgotten to pull your navel in on the exhalation. Don't forget to pull the navel in on the exhalation. And remember, you can always go back to that breath pattern if you ever get lost. And on your next inhalation, we'll release. Let's come on to all fours. We're going to come into cow face pose next. I'm going to step my left foot behind my right foot. Left foot behind my right foot. Feet are nice and wide. From here, I'm going to begin to sit backward. Now, I can just sit halfway back and lean forward if that's too much for my hips to touch the floor. I can always put a pillow underneath the hips. I can gently drop back onto the floor. So lots of options here. If I drop back onto the floor and I'm feeling extraordinary pain, I can walk my feet away from my body. I can uncross my knees. So just different variations so that you're not gritting your teeth to try to sit through the whole period. Now, typically in Gomukhasana or cow face pose, we have an arm configuration as well, and that's optional. But the arm configuration, we would extend the left arm, cross the right arm over the left, and press the backs of the hands together. You can stay right here, or you can wrap your hands one more time. Wherever you are, take a nice deep breath. As you exhale, pull your shoulder blades down your back. Pull your elbows down toward your hips. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, pull your shoulder blades down the back. Pull your elbows toward your hips. And it goes without saying that each time we exhale, we're also pulling the navel toward the spine. And you can make this more difficult if you want to by pushing your hands together firmly, pulling down a little more actively with your shoulders. You could even get your feet involved, pushing your feet away from your body. So it's almost like I'm trying to push my hips backward. All of these variations, again, they're not mandatory. They're ways that you can change up the posture to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself interested. So choose what works, leave what doesn't. The beauty of this is that there are no comparisons. Nobody can see what you're doing. So make yourself comfortable, make this comfortable for you and pleasant. And on your next inhalation, we'll uncross the arms, press the body back to an upright position, uncross the knees, and switch sides. I'm going to slide now my right knee behind my left, walk my feet out nice and wide, and I can sit halfway back and just lean my body forward. That may keep it from getting too intense. If it feels pretty good and you want to drop back a little further, you may want to place a pillow underneath your hips to support your hips, or you may want to try dropping all the way down to the floor. So notice if you're bending forward, that may or may not make this posture a little bit easier. When you come back, if you choose to come to an upright position, you can walk your feet away from your body. That will make it a little more easy. You could also make it easier by separating the cross of your knees. Now, if you want to make it more difficult, pull those feet back. Stack the knees one on top of the other. And again, we typically do an arm configuration with this. So we're going to extend the right arm now, cross the left arm over the right, and just press the backs of the hands together. We can stay right here, or you can make this a little more difficult by crossing your hands one more time so that the palms press together. As we inhale, we can think about lengthening the spine from the tailbone up through the crown of the head. As we exhale, we're going to ground down, pulling the outsides of the back down, and the elbows, pulling the elbows down toward the hips. So inhale, extend up the midline of the back. Exhale, extend down the sides of the back and the midline of the front. And if you want to add on here, you can push your feet forward as if you're trying to push your hips backward. One more deep inhalation. Exhale, press the hands together, press the feet forward. And on your next inhalation, we'll gently release. Uncross the arms, uncross the legs. We'll come up into a kneeling position now. Coming into Virasana or hero pose. So in Virasana, we can keep the tops of the feet on the floor or we can turn the toes under. Today, I'm just going to do this posture with the toes turned under and the head cut off. So I'm sitting back on the heels, toes are turned under. As I exhale, pulling the chest back, pulling the navel back. Inhale, lengthen up the spine, up the midline of the back. Exhale, flatten the front against the back and ground down to the midline of the front of the body. And I want to encourage you and keep reminding you to try to avoid allowing your chest to bow. I'm flattening my chest. I know. Flattening my chest even more against my back. Flattening the belly against the spine. If the arches of the feet are getting tired, try pressing the heels together. Notice how that helps you support the weight of your core. You can also press your inner thighs together. That will help you support the weight of your core. You could walk your heels apart, spread them apart. Notice how that just hits a different part of your ankle. And then from here, we're going to change the position so that we're sitting on the tops of the feet and we're going to walk the knees slightly apart. So I'm going to rest my hands on my ankles. If I lock out my elbows, I can support my weight nice and tall. See how this feels as I begin to drop toward the floor. It might be really intense, and if it is, just lean forward slightly. Keep pulling your chest and your navel toward your back. If you want to make it more intense, feel free to drop down onto the floor. You can roll your calves out from under your thighs. Inhale, lengthen up the middle of the back. Exhale, lengthen down the middle of the front. And if you want to make this more difficult, you can begin to walk backward. One hand at a time, one elbow at a time. Now at this point, my back is pretty arched, as you can see. As I exhale, pulling the navel toward the spine, I still can't quite flatten out that back, so I'm not going to go any further. If you can flatten out the back, go ahead and drop all the way down to the floor. If you're struggling with this, as you exhale down the midline of the front, send the insides of your knees all the way across the room to the opposite wall. Inhale, lengthen up the spine. Exhale, lengthen down the midline of the body all the way through the pelvis, through the thighs, and out the knees. Now, oh my gosh, it's really getting intense. What do I do? What do I do? All right, try this. Try to just kind of switch side to side with those knees. Or come up. You don't have to come all the way up. You come halfway up. Wherever you are, we'll all make our way back to the upright position here. On your next inhalation, we'll come back up onto the knees. We're going to come into single leg pigeon, Ekapada Padottanasana. Sliding my right knee forward, extending my left leg behind. Now, I can roll to my right hip, and I can roll over to my left hip. I like to emphasize different sides and then emphasize both sides. So I like to roll to my right hip and just really sit into the right hip, the right butt cheek. I can keep my hands up. I can rest my hands on my knee. I also like to stay in an upright position for a little while because this really forces you to pull your navel toward your spine. And you may think that that is a flexibility thing. That is also very much a strength thing. You need a strong stomach to keep that back flat, a strong abdominal muscle. There's a bunch of them. So I don't like to drop down onto the floor right away. I think that it's helpful to practice this idea of pulling the navel back and trying to straighten out the back. Another thing that will help with that is pushing. I'm using my hands almost like I'm pushing myself backward. I'm pushing myself backward with my hands. And then I'm using my right shin and I'm pushing forward with my right shin. So my hands push back, my right shin pushes forward. That helps me begin to even out my hips so that I don't have one hip in front of the other. Now I'm still not 100% even with the hips yet. We do our best. So inhale. Lengthen, maybe push back with the arms. Exhale, ground that entire left leg. Push the right shin forward and pull the navel to the spine. One more time in. As we exhale, we'll release. Come back up onto all fours and we'll just switch sides. This time we slide the left knee forward. Walk it across the body, extend the right leg back. So again, I like to start sitting on one hip just because it helps me to work into that hip. If you are a little older, you'll know that it takes a little bit longer to loosen up here. So sitting into that left hip, and now I'm going to begin to start feeling into my right hip. So what happens when I kind of roll over to the right? And as I roll over to the right, now I can use my hands, kind of push myself backward. I'm using my hands to kind of push myself backward. I'm extending that leg as long as I can. Inhale, fill the belly, push backward with the hands. Exhale, pull the navel to the spine, push the shin forward. Something else that might also help you in this posture, if you look backward at that extended leg, see if you can roll your pinky toe toward the floor. Roll the pinky toe toward the floor. That just helps you stretch the outside of the thigh a little more deeply, which helps you even out the hips a little bit more, so that when you pull your navel back and push away with your shin, you feel yourself sitting a little more deeply into this pigeon pose. And on your next inhalation, we'll gently come up onto all fours. From here, we're going to come into frog pose. In frog pose, we start on all fours. I'm going to walk my knees as far apart as they'll possibly go and lean onto my forearms. Now notice my feet. I'm walking my feet out so that you can see my feet. I'm going to slide my feet so that they're directly, my ankles are directly behind my knees. Turn the feet out so my ankle bones, the inside ankle bones, are pressing toward the floor. As I exhale, I'm going to use my elbows to press my hips backward. As I inhale, I'll relax slightly, fill the belly. Exhale, push down into my elbows and backward. We'll hold this posture for another minute. And this one too, you can play with. As you inhale, think about trying to pull the outer thighs up toward the ceiling. Now, no, I'm not going to lift them up, actually. But I'm making an effort, and it's just a weird sensation. You're using the muscle. We're trying to stretch that muscle. If we try to lift with the muscle, we contract it just a minute, for just a second, and then we let it go again. So when we contract, we kind of wrung out a sponge. We tightened it up, and now we let go, and some blood can come in there, clean out some waste products. Try it again. Pull the knees up, pull the outer thighs up toward the ceiling. Just make the effort. Relax again. Or, by the same token, push backward a little more firmly. Press the insides of your feet into the floor and use your feet to push forward. So I'm pushing backward with my hands. I'm pushing forward with the insides of my feet. Again, engaging muscles in the pelvic floor. As I exhale, pull the navel toward the spine. Inhale, fill. Exhale, push back with the arms, forward with the feet, and pull the navel to the spine. One more time. And as we exhale, be very careful coming out of this. Slide your hands back toward your hips. Come up onto the arms, and then one at a time, just little by little, slide the knees back together. We'll come down onto the floor for final Shavasana. Allow the body to relax on the floor. And just feel into the body. We're looking for areas of warmth, vibration, muscle twitching, heaviness. All of those sensations are a result of blood moving into the area. The blood is specifically moving into whatever area it is that you're sensing because you've done something. You have broken a few muscle fibers. That's good because they'll rebuild. That's how muscle grows. You may have broken up an adhesion, some of that tissue that holds everything together. If waste products get stuck between the tissue and the muscle can't move. So if you twist and turn and break that up, the blood will come in and clean it out. So you may be feeling sensations in your hands and wrists, in your shoulders. You may feel them in your belly. The outer thighs. You got to be feeling them in the outer thighs. We did a lot of outer thigh stuff. Shavasana can be a genuine act of kindness. All you need to do right now is sense into your body and remain still. Lying still is the fastest way for your body to wash waste products away from the muscles. The body does that most efficiently when you lie still, because you're not directing the blood somewhere else. You're not asking the blood to help you jump up and walk away. So give yourself a few more moments of silent stillness. Notice too how good it feels when all the blood kind of sinks toward the floor. We've reached the end of our time, so we'll bring ourselves back in whatever way feels comfortable for you. A long stretch, rotating the hips or the knees or the feet or the wrists, rolling to one side when you're ready, and gently bringing yourself back to a sitting position. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was useful for you. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. for a status hearing, and I will be back on Friday at 12:15 for a status strength, so a sequence of strength building postures. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.